What is up, everybody? My name is Jerichoholic8704, and it is Royal Rumble Sunday, so a happy Royal Rumble Sunday to you. And typically in my youth, Royal Rumble Sunday was a very magical time because, it was the kickoff to the road to WrestleMania. Why not be excited? And maybe it's in my old age. Maybe I'm just a little bit more cynical this year, like I am, the previous year, the year before that, but I have just not been as excited as I usually am for the Royal Rumble. And I don't think it's me getting older. I don't think it's me being a jaded fan. It's not me being a bad fan. I think it's due to the fact that when I look back at the past decade, and I know it's 2020, but I am still going to look back at the past decade because I guess at the age of 22, all I can do is look back on the past and live in it. But that being said, I'm very, very cautiously optimistic. That's always the attitude I've had towards maybe I would say the last 3 or 4 Royal Rumbles. Just cautiously optimistic about the entire thing. And it's due to the fact that this past decade of Royal Rumbles have not been the greatest. They really haven't. And when I look back on it, I think of all the reasons as to why the Royal Rumble has kind of lost a lot of its luster, not because WWE doesn't care about it. They clearly have slated it as their number 2 pay-per-view of the year. Maybe number 3. Because sometimes it's SummerSlam, sometimes it's not. But, they're giving, Royal Rumble the baseball stadium treatment, which I think is a good direction in building up the prestige of the event. And they do treat it as, no pun intended, as a royal event due to the fact of its tie with WrestleMania. But overall, the Royal Rumble match itself, the main focus of the pay-per-view, has been lacking throughout the past decade. It's lost a lot of luster, just not because, again, WWE doesn't care about it, but because they've ruined it. Like, my God, have they ruined this match. And again, it's not because they don't care. It's because I think it's because they care a little too much and they're micromanaging everything. But what I'd like to do for this video, since I was thinking about this, the past couple of days, is I'd like to go from 2010 to 2019 and analyze each Royal Rumble match and whether it was good, bad, and how it overall contributed to the mystique of the Royal Rumble match. And again, I'd like to say I'm not looking at the particular event itself, like the entire whole 4-hour event, 3-hour event, however long it's going to be, because I think last year's Royal Rumble was like 4.5 hours, and it's like, God damn it, with 2 Rumble matches becoming the norm now, the last thing we need is like a full card. I'd love for the Royal Rumble to be 3 hours again, but with 2 Rumbles, it's just not going to happen anymore. But anyway, let's dive right in, starting with the 2010 Royal Rumble. Now, I know I just kind of bashed the Royal Rumbles for the past decade, and I think I'm probably going to use like some witty alliteration in the title, like a decade of disappointment or something like that. I don't know. But 2010, ironically, was probably one of the better Royal Rumbles I've seen. And within this decade, 2010 to 2019, I would think this is probably the best Royal Rumble. Definitely, right? Wouldn't it? I mean, looking back on it, it has to be one of the better ones, if not the best. I thought this was an excellent Rumble. And the reason I think this Rumble is really great is it breaks a lot of the conventions that we had seen, a couple of years prior and that we would eventually see later down the road. What I mean by that is like what's very typical of a Royal Rumble. It's like, you have someone come in and clean house. You have the big 7-foot guy come in and just be a monster. You have your Iron Man, who's typically a heel, but sometimes a babyface. He comes in at number 1. He survives until a late game entrant throws him out to a huge, massive ovation. You have number 30 enter into a crowded ring and eventually clear out to a Final 4 where that really didn't happen. I think the Final 4 occurred as soon as number 30 entered the ring with Batista. So this Rumble was very different. And I think when I initially bought it, and, with the Rumble switching to the WWE Network, Rumbles 2015 to 2019 were all streamed. And I had ordered the 2010, 2012, and 2014 on pay-per-view. So the only ones I really didn't see live were 2011 and 2013. I would just eventually watch those shows. But anyway, I'm getting off track here. 2010, aside from breaking the conventions, also had really entertaining moments throughout. 1 and 2 were Evan Bourne and Dolph Ziggler, who were just, 2 basically random mid-carders, and they were basically fodder for CM Punk, who kind of went on a tear from, number 3 to number 10, and he was doing all the promos with the, Straight Edge Society, and he would individually pick people off, and then you had Beth Phoenix coming in and eliminating the Great Khali, which was a really cool moment. There were just a lot of fun things interspersed throughout this Rumble. And there were a lot of stories told, which was really nice. So CM Punk kind of had his time to shine in the beginning. Triple H eventually dumped him out, which, garnered a huge reaction from the crowd because, Punk had basically been insufferable for the first portion of the match. I think Punk could have gone on a little bit longer. They could have had him kind of like, scurry away from elimination. But in the grand scheme of things, I think he went out when he needed to for the story of the match to play out. The only Rumble convention we really saw in this was Shawn Michaels coming in and cleaning house. He kind of served as the proverbial monster, even though he was near the end of his career. And my God, when Shawn Michaels runs out to the ring at number 18, he runs so slow. You could tell he was just like, God damn it, I am so done with this shit. And he had to run down that ramp and he could barely make it. But my God, he did. And he put on a great performance. And, Shawn Michaels eliminating Triple H was a really cool moment after they double teamed Cena. And that's another thing, with the Rumble, we kind of see people, let's say it's composed of 3 acts, because it basically is. We see a lot of guys from Act 1, carry on to Act 2 and Act 3, not necessarily as Iron Men, but it's guys who last a majority of the match. And that really didn't happen. At some points, the entire ring is just cleared out. And, I think Shawn Michaels entered at number 18, Cena entered at number 19. And, those two guys kind of carried on the bulk of the match until the latter portions of the entrance came in. So it's just it was very weirdly structured when compared to other Rumbles, but it was a breath of fresh air and a really, really fun match to go back to. And for Rumble standards, I think it's pretty short. It's about 45 minutes. So again, these are all welcome changes because, it didn't become the norm. It was different, but it was great. And Edge returning was an awesome moment. Him coming back and spearing Jericho, that was great. But the whole arc was mainly about Shawn Michaels coming back and trying to win to get his match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And what I thought was brilliant about Shawn Michaels' exit into the ring, his elimination, I should say, is it wasn't super dramatic. It wasn't this super... I shouldn't say it like that. It was dramatic. It wasn't very climactic, which I think was great. It wasn't like Batista powerbombed him and gorilla pressed him over the top and something like that. It was he was barely on the apron. Batista just knocked into him and Shawn Michaels lost his footing and he lost his grip on the rope and he just kind of stumbled to the floor. Now, I'm sure Shawn Michaels thought of that elimination because he's in the latter portions of my career when my back is all fucked up, there is absolutely no fucking way someone's throwing me over the top rope. I'm sure he thought that to himself, but in the grand scheme of things, it worked out great for the story because Shawn Michaels, after he fell out of the ring, was just holy shit, I lost. He had this look on this look of despair on his face. And it was so great because it was he knows he could have won, but because he just made this one little slip up, this one little error. And if you go back to that WrestleMania promo with him and Undertaker, that was one of the key lines in the whole thing. I made one mistake and it cost me everything. And it happened here again. So it's Shawn Michaels' performance here was just amazing. It proved, even at the tail end of his career, he was still one of the best, if not the best on the entire roster. But overall, this Rumble was great, and Edge coming back was a great return, and, once he returned, you pretty much figured he's the rightful winner if Shawn Michaels isn't going to win, which I think everything played out in the end. It played out well, and I think overall this is a great Royal Rumble. So, the decade started off strong, and then we move on to 2011. And when I say it like that, it makes it seem like I hate the 2011 Royal Rumble, which I kind of do, but I don't. Speaking of breaking conventions, this one spat in the face of convention, and it added 40 men into the ring. Now, here's the thing. This Royal Rumble took place when I was 13 years old when this Rumble took place. And I vividly remember, laying down on my bed in my room watching, my episode of Monday Night Raw. And I remember Miz was the one who officially announced that it would be a 40-man Royal Rumble. I remember he said it in one of his promos. I vividly remember this. And even as a young chap, as a young, stupid kid, I remember thinking, what the fuck? Why are they doing 40 people in the Rumble? And here's the thing. I don't think this was ever a good idea. I think 30 was the magic number, and I think 40 just took too much time. And we saw what happened when they went to 50 with the greatest Royal Rumble, which side note, I'm not really going to be covering that because why? There's no point. Anyway, 40 men. I see what they were going for here. The card wasn't very loaded. It was 3 matches total, and then the Royal Rumble. So you have a lot of guys on the roster to play with here. And, they did add some legends, and the returns here were cool. Booker T returning was really, really cool. I liked Diesel returning. Those were cool moments, sure. But to me, it's just there were so many guys, and there just wasn't a lot happening. They used like the first portion of this match to set up like the new Nexus versus the Core. Like remember those things? Remember when I thought that was going to be a WrestleMania match? Like how fucking stupid of me. The point is, there really wasn't a lot to go for here. And to have 40 people in the ring, it's just you lose interest. And there were so many nobodies and so many people who just felt like they were just filling up a gap, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to get that with the Royal Rumble. You're not going to have 30 must-see stars. You know what I mean? That's just impossible. You're not going to get that. You're going to need some people to fill in. You're going to need some warm bodies in there to fill up some slots. And I think 30 is an acceptable number where you can have a good amount of stars, a good amount of mid-carders, and a good amount of, jabronis. But with 40, you just have a whole new mix. And I think another big problem I had with this was like they really didn't do anything with the extra 10 entrants. It was just like an extra long Royal Rumble match. And at the end of the day, I remember like the final 2, it was Santino and Alberto Del Rio, and it's like, this is like the epic 40-man Royal Rumble match. You'd think you'd want to have a more elaborate winner planned out. And I mean, I guess maybe you don't want to go with John Cena. I mean, he was going to be the one main eventing anyway, so maybe Cena should have won this match. But then there was like that whole tear where Cena was on, beating people up alongside Hornswoggle, where it's just like, it didn't feel like a Royal Rumble match. It just felt like a super long gauntlet. Like it just, the 40, I think, really threw off the whole flow of the Royal Rumble. And I just don't enjoy the 2011 Rumble as I do some of the other ones. And I've seen people, I don't know, sometimes wrestling fans just piss me off. People are like, oh, with all the new stars now, shouldn't we go back to the 40-man format? 2 big problems with that. 1, these shows are already a fucking eternity. Do you really want to add another 10 entrants to both Rumbles? Because as WWE has very much established, if you do it with the men, you have to do it with the women. Personally, I don't even think the women's Rumble should be 30. I think it should be 20. And it's not... And like, I understand how WWE's hands are tied here, because it's like, if you give men 30 and women 20, people are going to bitch and cry like, oh my God, inequality, yada, yada. But here's the thing. The roster for the women is just not deep enough for a 30-person Rumble. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I think they would benefit from 20. And it's not because I prefer men over women. It's nothing like that. It's merely because if you look at the roster sizes, they just don't compare. There's just simply more men than there are women in the WWE roster. That's just a fact. So it's just like, I don't know why they have to do 30 women. I just think it would be better for them, and it would just be better for the match's sake, and it would shorten the goddamn pay-per-view. So thumbs up all around. But I understand that WWE's hands are kind of tied here. They're publicly traded. People are going to call them out on it. I get it. Even though people would rather, for the sake of representation, sacrifice quality. Whatever, I'm not going to get into that. But the point is, I just think the women could benefit from a smaller Rumble match, and it wouldn't hurt anything at all. If anything, it would make it better. But anyway, that's just my problem with the 2011 Rumble. I just think it's too long, and I just think the 40 was unnecessary. But anyway, and my other issue with the 40-man format coming back is, yeah, I understand there's a lot of talent, but here's the thing. No matter how much talent there is on the roster, like pretty much everyone is talented at this point. There aren't a lot of stars, and it's like, look, I think Akira Tozawa is a great wrestler, but my God, if he comes out at number 35, I'm like, just fucking end this match already. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's like, sure, you can be the greatest wrestler in the world, but if I don't care about you, I don't care about you. Like, God, I understand that there's so much talent on the roster, but it's like, why can't people get that through their head? It doesn't matter how good of a wrestler you are. If you're not a star, you're not a star. If people don't want to see you on TV, they don't want to see you. So that's another reason why I don't think we need 40 men in the Rumble. It's just like, we can barely get enough stars for 30. And again, I know I said previously you don't need stars in every single slot, but my God, you need some excitement. But anyway, we're going to move on to 2012. So the 2012 Rumble went back to 30, a good move already. So I'm already going to put it above 2011. But at the same time, it kind of speaks to that problem I was just talking about, where, my God, in this Royal Rumble, when I went back and looked at all the entrants, I think there might have been 2 people that actually could have won, and those 2 were the final 2, ironically. So I think when I first initially watched this, I was a freshman in high school. So like, I think I initially liked it, and I think because, you had to drop so much money for a pay-per-view, I was just like so content on saying it was worth it because I didn't want to feel like I was cheated out of my money. But it's not to say the 2012 Royal Rumble is really bad. It's not. It's just in absolutely no way is it exciting at all. It is absolutely not exciting in any sort of way. And the problem is, I think also I was wrapped up in the Tumblr wrestling community, which is why I thought this match was really good. And here's the thing. Let me go on a quick side tangent. You guys think the YouTube wrestling community, the YWC, is bad? I personally think the Tumblr wrestling community, the TWC, is even worse. It might actually be worse, because here's the thing. What do we know the YWC for being? Just extremely negative, right? Like everything's just bitching and moaning and complaining and whining. That's all the YWC is. Here's the thing. The TWC is the exact opposite. And I think that actually drives me more insane. Everything is so positive. They love everyone. And it gets to the point where it's like, okay, what is good to you people? Like literally, like I remember one time I made a post about how like, oh my God, like it was like a random Raw match. And I'm like, again, I'm like a 16-year-old kid, like, oh my God, Alicia Fox, why do I hate her match? And people are like, oh my God, you're insulting Alicia Fox? She's a veteran. And it's like, okay, you fucking, like, what? Like, why is everyone good? That's what pissed me off. So it's like, when you go back and look at the 2012 Royal Rumble match, like, Tumblr would make you believe that every single person's a star because they love everyone because, you know, yay, we love all wrestlers and everything. Like, everyone's great. When it's like, in actuality, some of these people are just boring. And like, when I went back and watched this match and I saw Camacho come out, I was like, holy shit. Like, there was no one in this match. There was absolutely no one. They had Santino Marella and Mick Foley doing like a sock puppet match at one point. They had all three announcers come in. Like, literally, there was so few people to actually get behind. You had Karma come in, which was like a cool moment and all, but then she was dumped so unceremoniously off the top rope. So it's like, there was absolutely nothing to get behind here. And all the mid-carders were just stuck in mid-card hell to the point where it's like, this wasn't going to be a launching pad. You really didn't think like, oh, that person's he's going to break through the glass ceiling. Like, this is going to be Kofi Kingston's night. This is going to be Cody Rhodes' night. Like, everyone knew their role in this match. There were two people that could win, Chris Jericho and Sheamus. Sheamus mainly just because he was a former champion and it looked like they were like kind of behind him. Jericho was the favorite because he was the only person remotely in line for a championship match at this point, because we all knew John Cena and The Rock was going to be the main event. So it was kind of a moot point at this point who was going to win the Royal Rumble, because you really weren't going to the main event of WrestleMania, which is why I think it's okay that Sheamus won this match, because everyone knew Jericho was going to face Punk. So why waste your Rumble surprise when you have two world titles? So I think if you were going to put Sheamus with Daniel Bryan, Sheamus was a fine winner. It was kind of a swerve because everyone figured Jericho was going to win. So in my opinion, that was probably the best part of this match, was Sheamus winning. As a winner, Sheamus really didn't do much. If anything, it helped Daniel Bryan more than it did Sheamus. But at the end of the day, it was okay. I just don't think there was anything worth it in this Rumble. There really wasn't a lot at all. Just a lot of no names, you know, like, again, like I'm in the latter portions of this match and like Jack Swagger comes out and I'm like, oh my God. And he was the United States champion. I was like, God, throwback. My God. Now he's in AEW. So it's like, it's crazy how time flies. But anyway, 2013. So this Rumble was fine. It was okay. You know, it was better than 2012. Better than 2011, I would say. Not as good as 2010. But, you know, overall, 2013 was pretty solid. Jericho returning was a really, really awesome moment. You know, Jericho and Dolph kind of went the distance. They both started 1 and 2, and they went pretty much till the end of the match. I really like it when that happens. I really like when they kind of have both guys. Like, I don't mind one Iron Man, but if you have two Iron Men, especially if it's 1 and 2, I really think it's fun. And just watching them mix up with every single person. You know, in terms of surprises, this Rumble kind of lacked on him a little bit. It had The Godfather, which was a really cool moment, and Goldust too, which was cool watching him scrap with Cody. And it's amazing. When I went back and watched this, and the main reason I watched all these matches is because WWE uploaded a lot of them to YouTube. So I was just kind of skimming through and I was watching it, and it is really kind of, it's cool watching, you know, the chemistry between Dusty and Cody. So it is really cool there, and it's like amazing how later in the in AEW they actually had an amazing match, and it's like people were still clamoring to see it in 2013, 2014, and it never came to fruition. And like it finally climaxed in Goldust versus Stardust at Fastlane. So it's like, Jesus Christ, like clearly people were excited because Goldust got a huge pop and the crowd loved him and Cody going at it. So, you know, there was a lot to love in some of the surprise entrants. Godfather really didn't do anything, but he didn't need to. It was just him showing up was the real great part. It was also really interesting to see Bo Dallas come in at like number 18. He was like the young up-and-comer from NXT. So like he was the NXT Promise Star. And to know what Bo Dallas is doing now, it's crazy to think that, like, you know, that was the next big thing, Bo Dallas. And Wade Barrett, too, he had a feud with Bo Dallas in this match, which is, again, another person gone from the company. But again, just really interesting to see. Ryback was kind of the favorite to win this match if it wasn't going to be John Cena, because, again, everyone figured if Rock was going to win the title, John Cena was clearly slated to win. So as soon as John Cena won this match, people figured, well, there's probably going to be a title change. And I mean, I guess it's a creative way to get around the once-in-a-lifetime stipulation, but I remember this was probably the first Rumble of the decade where people really weren't super hot on the winner. Like, I know Del Rio kind of seems pretty underwhelming in hindsight, but back in 2011, I think a lot of people were behind him, and there really wasn't a lot of backlash for Del Rio winning the Rumble. Sheamus was fine, and then people were excited for Edge. But Cena, I think people were still kind of in a big anti-Cena phase in 2013. And I think once people realized that, oh shit, we're probably getting Rock Cena too, when no one wants to see that. Like, if it was Cena versus Punk, I think people would forgive a John Cena Royal Rumble win. But because Rock won the title that night, people were like, fuck. And then I think this is where the fan resentment towards the Royal Rumble slowly started to begin. Oh my God, I'm only 20 minutes in and I'm only at 2013. Jesus Christ. All right, we got to hurry up. But we have the two big ones. The two big ones of the decade are coming up, and we're starting with 2014. Now, here's the thing about this match. The match, honestly, is not that bad. If you, completely disregard the fact that the fans wanted to burn the building to the ground when it was done, this match wasn't that bad. I really liked CM Punk's performance in this match. The Shield's performance was awesome. All three guys were great, particularly Roman Reigns, who set the record in this match for the most eliminations. This was a really, really good performance for him. And again, the match was actually going really, really well for the entirety. There really weren't any fuck-ups. Kofi's save, I should mention that too. 2012 was when Kofi started his little trickery to get back in the Rumble, but his leap of faith was one of the better ones he ever did. He had Alexander Rusev coming in as a little bit of a surprise. There were cool moments in this match, don't get me wrong. But everyone was waiting for Daniel Bryan to come out. And when he didn't, and it was Rey Mysterio, the people shat all over this match. Absolutely. There was nothing they could do to save it. They all knew Batista was going to win if Daniel Bryan wasn't in it at all. And he ended up doing it. And, this was the one time the crowd was so in favor of Roman Reigns that they were actively cheering for him. And I remember vividly watching this match live, because I too was one of the poor souls that thought Daniel Bryan was actually going to be in this match. Here's the deal. I was watching this, and I remember the final two was Roman Reigns and Batista, and I thought, you know what? Let's fucking do it. Let's push Roman Reigns. I don't care if he's part of the Shield. Let's thrust him in the main event, because I'd rather have that than Batista. Lo and behold, Batista won, and the crowd hated it. But again, here's the thing. The match really wasn't that bad. It's just, this match is tainted. It's one of those matches where it's just, you will always have a bad taste in your mouth afterwards if you know the history behind it. And, I mean, even if you don't know the history behind it, when you go back and watch it, the crowd is booing the shit out of Batista. So you have to know that something's wrong. So, and poor Rey Mysterio getting booed out of the building and then cheered like crazy when he got eliminated. There's a lot of reasons why this match is hated. But honestly, I would even put this over the 2012 Royal Rumble, because at least to me, this one is kind of exciting. And it's one of those, it turns into such a train wreck that you can't look away. So there are some good parts of this match. There are. And a majority of it is pretty easy to sit through. It's better than some other Rumbles. I'd even put this over 2011. My God. It's just, in the moment, in the context, this is one of the worst Royal Rumbles ever. But as a match, in a vacuum, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal at all. It's pretty good. But 2015 is a double whammy. Not only were the fans resentful of the winner like they were in 2014, but unlike 2014, this match actually blew ass. This was terrible. It started off okay. It wasn't that bad. It started with Miz and R-Truth, and that's not the most exciting 1 and 2 pair, but it eventually started picking up. I think Bray came in around number 4 or 5. And, they had a little mini Wyatt family reunion, and that was kind of cool. And then when Daniel Bryan came in at number 10, he had just come off his first fake retirement. So, fans were super excited to see him back. They thought he was a clear shoo-in to be the winner. He had that neck injury. He never rightfully lost the title. So it's there was a lot of things to enjoy about that. Okay, so Daniel Bryan gets eliminated 7 minutes later. And I remember watching that. And it was very similar to the Shawn Michaels elimination, where it's he kind of just got nudged off the apron and very unceremoniously dumped, and just not dramatic at all. But Unlike the Shawn Michaels elimination, this one had no significance. It was just a way to get Daniel Bryan out of there. He just looked a little disappointed and then walked right back to the back with no response and absolutely nothing else for the fans to grasp onto. And then it was the Roman Reigns show. As soon as Roman Reigns came out at number 19, just thunderous boos. Quite the contrast from 2014 where the fans were actually cheering for him. And what I love is that all of the announcers are just sheep. They all suck so much that when Roman Reigns comes out, you hear Dan it, and then just this boo from like every person in the arena. It's Philadelphia, I think, right? So like they are just booing their faces off. And then King's like, whoa, baby. And it's like, King, come on. Like, you're more credible than that. Like, can you acknowledge the fact that like, whoa, fans do not like Roman Reigns tonight? Like at least acknowledge it. Don't be like, whoa, here comes the big dog. Like, I fucking hate when they do that. And it was just full force. Like, everything about this match was just classic, stubborn WWE. Like, this is our guy, fucking like it. But that really wasn't even the worst part of the match. The absolute worst part was Big Show and Kane. Because at this point, they were still like the Authority Wrecking Crew. And like, just in an act of pure symbolism of what WWE thinks of their fans, they took all the favorites and just tossed them out of the ring like hot garbage. Like literally Big Show and Kane. I think they did this to Dean. They did this to Ziggler. They did this to Bray. They had to have done it to a couple more people, but those were the three I mentioned because like those were three people that like the fans could actually get behind. Like, oh, this would actually be like a cool winner to see. They literally grabbed an arm and a leg, and then they dumped him over the top in like literally slow motion. Like literally, just pause your screen and then slowly inch forward frame by frame. That is the speed in which they dumped these guys out of the ring, and it was just this apathetic booing. I will say my favorite part of this match was when Ryback entered and Rusev decided to attack him by bugging out his eyes and like screaming at the top of his lungs. That was the absolute best part of the match. Like literally, that was the only redeeming quality of this entire match. But anyway, 2015 will go down as one of the, if not the worst Royal Rumble ever. And I understand. Look, I've seen the 1995 Royal Rumble. I've seen the 1999 Royal Rumble. I know there are bad ones, but my God, this has to be the worst, right? And like, don't give me like, you haven't seen that. Like, I trust me, this has got to be one of the worst. It's definitely in the top 5 of all time of like just absolute abysmal matches. And then Roman Reigns overcoming the two greedy evil giants, and then Rusev, the evil foreigner, gets speared and just dumped. And then The Rock, actually no, I take that back about Rusev bugging his eyes out at Ryback. The best part of this match was The Rock making the save for Roman Reigns, him raising his hand, everyone booing, and then Rock giving the eyebrow. That was the best part of the match. So after that abysmal Rumble, WWE could only go up, and I think they did. I mean, literally, there was no other direction they could have gone. With 2016, they add a little twist. So this was the Royal Rumble match for the WWE Championship, similar to what they did in 1992. And overall, I thought this was a pretty good Royal Rumble. It's not super exciting. It's not the, like top 5 of all time, but it is a fun watch. You can definitely sit through this one. And there are some key highlights of this match, namely Brock Lesnar. He was the absolute best part of this match. We did have the debut of AJ Styles, which I'm sure for those who were in the crowd that night, it was pretty amazing. Us, poor saps watching at home, we were treated to, if you all remember this, they didn't show the stage or the Titantron or AJ like at all. They just showed like a befuddled Roman Reigns staring at the Titantron because it's like, who's this person coming out at number 3? But when the crowd went crazy and you saw AJ come out, it was a really, really cool moment. He lasted like a good amount. I think it was like 25 minutes or so, and Kevin Owens eliminated him, and Sami Zayn came out as like a surprise, and that was really cool. What I liked about this Rumble is there were some cool surprises like AJ and Sami Zayn, but they were credible surprises. It wasn't like Hacksaw Jim Duggan coming out there because this is for the WWE title. You know what I mean? I understand like the main event slot at WrestleMania is still prestigious, but like to me, it's like I'm glad we didn't have a bunch of weirdos and a bunch of goofballs coming out there for a shot at the WWE title. And I feel like with this match, unless I'm forgetting something, they really didn't focus too much on like the comedic aspects of the Royal Rumble. Like Kofi did do some wacky stuff with New Day. I think his like big save was he just like, I think he flew. No, that was 2015 where the Rosebuds caught him. I think 2016 he like rode on Big E's shoulders, which was like kind of a comedic spot. But like, the Rumble itself had a lot more of a serious tone again because it's for the WWE title. So like, I think the more serious tone of this match I thought was very fitting. But anyway, the best part of this match, my absolute favorite part, was Brock. Brock Lesnar was a star in this match. And it's because, if you guys remember, in 2016, the original idea was to have Brock versus Bray for WrestleMania until Dean Ambrose was thrown in as a substitute. But at this point, it was going to be Brock and Bray, and the build was going to be here. So Brock comes out at number 23, and in the ring is Rowan, Braun Strowman, and Luke Harper. And at this point, Braun Strowman there was still a lot of mystique around Strowman. He had just debuted, and they were determined to not have him be suplexed. Like, he was not going to get knocked off his feet. That hadn't happened yet. So there was no suplexing Braun Strowman. And Eric Rowan, fortunately for him, he got eliminated like just about the time Brock entered the ring. So all that was left was poor little Luke Harper, who had to take, I think, like 50 suplexes. And by the time he got eliminated, he was probably just like, thank fucking God. Because like all he could do was sit there and take suplexes. Now, it doesn't mean Brock didn't go after Braun, because he did. And my God, did he go after Braun. So Lesnar, he hits Braun in the face. And Braun, in his, foolishness and his ignorance, decides not to go down. And Brock's like, motherfucker, you're going to go down. And he wallops this dude. He just bludgeons him right in the face. Now, a lot of people go back to that other Rumble where he faced Brock and Kane in the triple threat as that time that he kind of stiffed Brock and then Brock stiffed him right back. That is nothing compared to just the blow he delivered to Braun Strowman in this match. And at one point, Lesnar was just hitting him with running knees. This was just the most ridiculous Brock Lesnar performance I've ever seen, but it was great. So eventually he gets eliminated by the Wyatt family, and then we go towards the end of the match. The big reveal was number 30 being Triple H. And he ended up winning the match to set up the Triple H Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania 32. When I went back and watched Triple H's big reveal as number 30, I thought, oh, it was a cool moment. But it also solidified the fact that I absolutely hate Michael Cole. And it's mainly due to the fact that, I never believe anything Michael Cole says. And, when I go back to some of those crazy Rumble returns, I think, Cena in 2008 and, other returns, JR, when he's calling it, he is legitimately shocked. I believe that JR was sitting there holy shit, what the fuck is going on? Michael Cole, literally when Triple H's music hits, Michael Cole's like, oh my God. And it's okay, clearly it's all right, Michael Cole, say your line right now. And it's what a robot. What a fucking robot. There was no emotion in that, and it sucked. I hated Michael Cole's call right there. But nitpicking aside, it was an okay moment. It came down to him and Dean, and the crowd was really behind Dean Ambrose. So it's maybe just pull the trigger there. But, what can you do? Triple H won, and we got a lackluster main event out of it. Whoop-de-doo. So 2017, this is another one of those Rumbles where, it's okay. I really, aside from the one time for this video, I never really went back and watched any of it. There aren't a lot of surprise entrants, the only one really being Ty Dillinger. And then it was it wasn't a very front-loaded Royal Rumble. Jericho entered at number 2, but he really didn't do anything, at all in this match. I think he was just laying around. He kind of pulled a Mysterio and just laid around the entire time. So overall, I wouldn't say this is a must-see Royal Rumble. If anything, the last 10 minutes are mainly where they set up a lot of their angles and a lot of the big stars came in, because this Rumble was crazy in the fact that Goldberg, Lesnar, and The Undertaker were all going to be in the match. Brock coming in, cleaning house, and then annihilating Enzo Amore was a funny moment. It was cool. And then, Lesnar and Goldberg's, standoff was a cool moment. And then seeing Goldberg in there with Undertaker was pretty neat. It thought ooh, it could be a cool dream match. And then it actually happened. And then the Saudi Prince, started to cry. But overall, this Rumble, there really isn't a lot to say. I really don't think there was anything too exciting about this match. they kind of fucked up again having Roman Reigns in at number 30, because it's like you kind of built everyone's good graces back up in 2016 because you had like a decent Royal Rumble match after two debacles in 2014 and 2015. And it's like, I think with 2017, people were really thinking like, oh, it's going to be a surprise entrant at number 30, because it's like, there's no way Goldberg, Lesnar, or Undertaker are going to win this match. You know, it's going to be someone fresh, someone new. And, you know, we really didn't know who was going to come in at number 30. And it was Roman Reigns. And it was just like, oh, great. And I think a lot of people were very disappointed by that. So, yeah, you know, not the greatest Royal Rumble match ever, and there's really nothing left for me to say about it. I think I'm trying to hurry up and finish this video off, but we only have 2 Rumbles left. But now, actually, we have 4, because we got to talk about the women's Rumbles, too. But anyway, 2018. So the Royal Rumble match here, you know, it's definitely one of the better ones of the decade. I'd say probably the best, behind maybe 2010. And like it's probably on par with 2016. It's a very good Rumble. Again, nothing super exciting in this match, nothing too crazy. I think 2016 has the edge with some of the surprises. And, you know, Nakamura winning in like, again, like at that moment was really, really cool and really nice to see. And it was kind of exciting to see like, oh, they're going to pull the trigger with the AJ Nakamura, you know, rematch from the Tokyo Dome. But looking back on it, Nakamura has to be one of the most like ineffectual winners in the past decade. When I think of people who like didn't do anything with their win, I mean, at least Randy Orton from last year. I mean, I kind of forgot to mention that Randy Orton won, but anyway, it's like, you know, Shinsuke Nakamura didn't really do anything. Like, he had that match with AJ. That feud ended up being super disappointing. You know, nothing really to write home about with that feud. And then he's just back to mid-card hell. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very underwhelming win. But in the moment, it was really, really cool. But the main story of the 2018 Royal Rumble was the introduction of the Women's Rumble, which the first Women's Rumble, I think, was better than, you know, the 2019 Women's Rumble. We'll see how 2020 goes tonight. But I think, you know, they relied a lot on, you know, past names and a lot of shock value. And, you know, this wasn't, you can look towards the Men's Rumble match as more of the traditional Rumble match. This one was more of like a celebration, if you will. And I mean, when you go back to the marketing for this 2018 Royal Rumble, it was all about like a celebration because we have a Women's Royal Rumble, as opposed to like women actually competing for a championship. It felt more like this is something nice we're doing, which was my big problem with the 2018 Women's Rumble. At least they kind of fixed it in 2019, but still, you know, there were a lot of past names here, which, you know, again, it was very fun for the people to watch because, you know, it's all these past names, all these big names from, you know, their childhood. And I think my favorite part of the match was probably the Trish Mickey stare down. I thought that was actually really great because, you know, I think a lot of people, if you're expecting a stare down with Trish Stratus, you're thinking, oh, they're going to put her with Lita. And Lita was in this match, but she was way earlier. I think she was like number 4 or 5, and Trish was number 30. And, you know, like I kind of forgot about Trish and Mickey's feud until they actually reignited it at this Royal Rumble, and the crowd popped huge for that. It was a really, really cool moment. I liked seeing it. Having the Bella Twins come back as, you know, like as final entrants in the final 4, because I think it was Nikki Bella versus Asuka was the final 2. And I mean, Asuka winning was a definite. I think she was still undefeated at this point, so it only made sense for her to win. So she was a great first winner. Similar to Shinsuke, though, she really didn't make out too well because she lost at WrestleMania and then never really regained her footing. She started losing to Carmella. So, like, there was just not a lot to go on for these winners. I think that was probably the worst part of the 2018 Rumbles. It's not the matches themselves, but just the aftermath. There really wasn't a lot to go on. So then in 2019, you know, this started the baseball stadium trend, which is something I very much appreciate. So that's going to give bonus points to 2019 already. I honestly think this is one of those rare cases where I think the Rumble matches were dwarfed by the actual undercard. I actually really enjoyed the undercard of the Royal Rumble 2019. The 2 women's title matches I thought were awesome, and I loved Brock versus Finn. I thought that was a great match. And it's like, when I look back on the 2019 Rumble, like the actual Rumble matches themselves leave a lot to be desired when compared to the undercard. I just think it's one of those rare cases and one of those times where you don't see it very often, but when it does happen, it is really weird. The Women's Rumble, I thought, you know, they strayed away from the past names. I think they had a few surprise entrants, but a lot of them had to do with, you know, like women from the Mae Young Classic, women from NXT, which I think is the correct direction to go in. But again, this is what I was saying earlier. If there were 20 women, you could focus more on like the you know, the cream of the crop, because there were some women in here who were very inexperienced. Maybe like, you know, like Lacey Evans came in at number 1 and was like, I don't know whose idea that was. But again, it's just like, I feel like at some point they were just filling slots for the sake of filling slots. And I think that's where this match suffered. And this match was also very long. It was about like a minute. I think it was 1 minute. Sorry, not 1 minute. 1 hour, like 12 minutes. And I just remember this match dragging. And by the time I hit the final four, I was like, just end this match already. And Becky coming in was interesting. I mean, it was a good choice for a winner because everyone wanted to see Becky win the match. And having her take Lana's place was a cool moment and everything. But again, it's just like the length of the match really kind of overstayed its welcome to the point where everyone's like, all right, I get it. Just win the match already. And you never want that to happen. You never want a match to go over its its allotted time with the fans, because at that point they're just begging for it to end. And I remember like there were so many near eliminations where I was like, God damn it, just eliminate her already. I know who's going to win this match. Just get to it. And then with the men's rumble, again, like nothing really to write home about here. And again, this was an issue. It was the main event, and it was a main event of like a 4-hour pay-per-view. And I think at this point we were about like 3 hours and 45 minutes into when the time the match started. And I was like, God, I hope this match is over quick. And then I saw number one. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, Elias. And I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. The fact that like we've waited all this time, we have another hour match ahead of us, and we have Elias doing his fucking shtick. And then Double J came out, and it was just like the worst intro you could have had to a Royal Rumble. But other than that, it was a very by the books Rumble. You know, nothing super different than previous years. It had a lot of Rumble traditions. I think overall, I'm trying to remember. I guess they didn't have a super long like Iron Man, because I don't think Elias lasted till the very very end, unless I'm misremembering that. But Seth Rollins came in at number 10. And then he went all the way to the end. So he had a pretty good performance. Nia Jax was probably the most notable thing in this match. I thought that was a cool moment. It was kind of fun watching her come in, scrap, eliminate some dudes, and then have the guys beat up her. I thought it was a pretty cool moment. I think a lot of people liked it and enjoyed it. So, I don't see the reason why you'd have to gender bend in the Royal Rumble. It's like, then what's the point of having a men and women's Royal Rumble if women can just enter the men's Rumble? That was my only, issue I had with Nia Jax entering. More was just from a storyline continuity standpoint than a woman entering the Rumble, because we've seen women do that all the time. But when women entered the Rumble, i.e. Beth Phoenix, Karma, and Chyna, there wasn't a women's Royal Rumble. So, it's just one of those weird kind of plot holes you have to look into. But at the end of the day, I don't really mind too much, because the crowd liked it. And if the crowd popped for it, then you know what? It's okay in my book. But anyway, that is a little bit of a retrospective of the past decade of Royal Rumbles. I'm losing my breath because I have just been talking for way too long. I'm going to check the timer right now. And we are at 42 minutes. Great, because I figured I can bust this out in 30 minutes, no problem. And look where we're at, 40 minutes. Great. Hey, as I established, 30 is the magic number, and here I am at 40. So I guess you can just call me the 2011 Royal Rumble. I guess that was my lame attempt at humor, but I will see you guys later. Enjoy the Royal Rumble tonight. I know I will. I'm cautiously optimistic, as you should be as well. Don't get too excited, because inevitably WWE will crush your hopes. My name is Jerichoholic8704. I'll see you guys later.